Buddy, this is Lance from ThetaTraders.com. I have my shirt of your inability to grasp science is not a valid argument against it. I'm trying to get back into teaching mode. Got another week and a half, and then I have to go back to school for my, what is it, 19th year teaching. Be teaching pre-AP chemistry and a little bit of intro to physics as well this year. So interested in getting back on that. Anyway, I just wanted to do this update video because I was on a 11-day vacation, went on a cruise to Mexico, also went to LA, saw Universal Studios and a few other fun things. So just wanted to mostly do an update on where my positions are and some of my thoughts when I was away on the cruise. So when I went on the cruise, didn't have internet for a few days. We went down to Cabo, Mexico. At that point, we got off the boat, and then I had internet. So, of course, first thing I do is I check Tasty Trade to see how my accounts are doing, and my custom groupings were gone, all of it. I would just see a bunch of -1, -1, -1, +1 for debit spread and whatnot, and it was just a big jumbled mess, and it didn't come back. I thought it would come back when I came home yesterday, logged into Tasty Trade online, and my custom groups were completely gone. So luckily, I do have a spreadsheet that I do log all my trades in. All datatraders.com members get access to this if you're on quarterly or inner circle. So I had to manually add them back in. I'll show you some of what I had to do. It took me about 30 minutes or so. So now it looks good, but before these were not there. It would just say -211. Not a big deal if it's just one position or a few like this, but when we have some like this, it got really jumbly. And I do some roles where I'm going to be selling a, let me see if I can find one here. So I do one on MES where it's a 111 or 112, really long dated out, but the DTEs are different. And because of that, it was really hard to figure out which one went with what. Like this one right here was a 300 with put debit spread. Then I rolled it to 150 with. You can see the days open was 34 for this particular trade because I rolled it from, was it 45.50 to 4700, and I had to figure out where that was on the orders in order to re-log it in. So a little bit of annoying, but not the end of the world. Luckily, I have the spreadsheet. Again, these shares.com members have all this. I was doing Control F. I was typing in different strike prices to see which line number it was in. And then I would go on Tasty, group positions, and then type in, say, SG line 48, whatever it was. So at least I'm back on track on that, but it was a bit annoying where I couldn't see where all my different positions were in terms of how they're grouped, right? But not really the end of the world. A few general thoughts when I was out looking at random water on the cruise, and I did write a blog post about this. There'll be a link in the description down below if you want to read more about it. One of the main things I was thinking during this cruise is, although I want my members to do really well, and I want to do really well, a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm making, say, 20% a year, but this other guy over here is making 25% or 30%. In the end, it really doesn't matter. As long as you're reaching your own goals based on your risk tolerance, it doesn't matter what other people are doing. Some people are willing to take more risks to get a higher return or a possibly higher return, but they also might have bigger losses. And as long as you're following trades based on your risk tolerance and you're reaching your goals, that's perfectly fine. Right now, my net lick is somewhere around 16% up this year, which is perfectly fine. My target goal is 2.5% a month. It ends up being about 28 to 30% a year, which is more than adequate to reach my goals. Technically, don't even need that much in order to reach my goals, but I think it's a good and reasonable numbers to achieve. So I'm reaching those goals right now this year, even with a few downturns in the last few days. I'm still at good overall place in my portfolio. I have a lot of 300 with and 150 with put debit spreads on ES. So if the market keeps dropping, I do have one, a good cushion or protection against pretty big downfalls, and two, it could possibly make a good amount of money. One of my main safeguard hedge trades that I'm doing is 300 with really far out of the money. And I'm not using that for an income generating trade, but I'm using it to, again, cushion those blows that we had the last few days and also possibly make pretty big returns with a 300 with ES put debit spread. You do 300 times a 50 multiplier, and you're looking at $15,000 in just one trade there. And the actual buying power needed is only about $1,000 or so. I'm going to have a little bit more for span margin, but you can make a really good return on those for fairly significant downturns. Not even black swans, but if you see like a 10-15% correction in a few months, that could actually be very good for those types of trades. And I think just based on my risk tolerance, I'm good putting those on. I'll be adding those on every month. If you're in Safeguard or Inner Circle membership, you could see access to these and talk about that with a good amount of members right now in our group. We got about 300 members, so appreciate all the support we have there. A few other things during the cruise I was thinking was that trade particularly, making sure I have a lot of protection against those downfalls. I was away for about 4 days in a row where I didn't have access to internet, and there could have been a pretty big downturn, and that could have theoretically hurt a lot. But I was well prepared for it. I had a lot of those trades in place. I had earlier 112, 111 trades where I closed the naked puts earlier on already and just let the put debit spreads on. So get a good amount of protection there if the market dropped a bit. So having all these things in place obviously is not going to make bigger returns because you are using your buying power and you're not going to necessarily make a lot, especially on big bull markets. But having that just cushion and comfort in place, knowing that you're still going to be okay when you have some downturns, is always very helpful. Another thing was making sure your buying power is staying pretty low. I was very low before the cruise. VIX was at the high 12s, low 13s when I left. Right now it's at 16, so it jumped a bit in the last week. My buying power was about 25% or so, without counting BIL or bill shares. Right now I'm in the high 50s or so. But I do have the bill shares as well. And I actually bought a little bit more bill shares before the trip just to know that I had that big cushion with low buying power use. I'll look to possibly trim a few of those shares of bill now that I'm back, and I could be a little bit more active on my trades. So again, I did write more about this in the blog post. If you look in the link in the description down below, be ready to do a lot more videos now. I know you guys miss me a lot. You miss my soothing, scratchy voice. So you'll be able to hear that a lot more if you click that subscribe button. Again, this is Lance from DataTraders.com. Hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend or weekday whenever you watch this, and see you guys on the next one.